Hello everyone. In this tutorial and the following few tutorials, we are going to be dealing with this area here. I'm going to be showing you how to create this exact area, this room here, with the chests and basically everything else that you see. So this is just what the end result is going to look like when we're done with it. So over here in this chest, if I open it, you see I have a sword. I can swing it with Z. I don't have any sound effects in here yet, but we will be getting to that in the tutorials. Now also, you'll notice if I press the X key, of course you don't know that I'm pressing the X key, but trust me on this, I'm pressing the X key. Nothing actually happens, but if I open this chest, you see I found a boomerang. Now, if I press X, I can throw it. Now, it does not throw diagonally, but that's the only direction it doesn't throw in. So we're going to be doing this. Oh, and it's like the magic boomerang in that it stays in place when you hold the button down. Now, before we can get started, I actually realized that I never gave you a link to download LateralGM. So you'll find that in the description, and you'll also find another link just below it that is to a zipped assets folder. You should download that too, because that is what we're going to be using to build the tutorials, the tutorial projects that we're going to be doing. So once you do that, then come right back and we will get started on building one. A couple more things before we get started, one of which is a disclaimer. I am by no means a master programmer, so please don't get it into your head that I'm this awesome video game developer that knows everything there is to know about video game development, because I'm not. I'm actually relatively new to the field, but I want to pass along my knowledge, my current knowledge, to people who have just never done it before and want to get into it. So there's that. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention is the fact that I have to keep my voice down because it's late at night. So with those two things out of the way, I think we should probably just get right into the first thing, which is sprites. Now, once you've had this program thoroughly installed and whatnot, and you've opened it, you'll notice that your resource tree is empty. That's because every single resource that you have to put in your game has to be imported. So what does this mean? Well, if you right click on sprites, we will create another resource. Well, we'll create one resource anyway. So this is your sprite editor, or not editor, but it's your, well, yes, it's your sprite editor, but it's not a image editor, if that makes sense. This is what you use to put sprites into the game, basically, not edit the sprites themselves. So, quick tour of this little window here. You'll have new sprite here. Well, actually, that's load subimages. This one is add subimages. This one is add sprite sheet subimages. And I'll go over all these at a later time. This is save. Then there's the zoom key. If you press this, you can left click to zoom in, right click to zoom out. This is zoom in and zoom out respectively. The bounding box we'll get into in a little bit. Same with origin. Animation speed, this is not the same as game speed. This is the current speed at which you are viewing the animation. 30 is default for both animation speed within this window and the game speed. So if you didn't change the game speed, then you don't have to change this, basically. This right here is a play button, but without an animation, it's just blank. And this is your sprite's name. That's the top bar. That's only the top bar. Let's change the sprite name to SPR man idle left. So after you've got that done, go all the way over here to where it says add sprite sheet subimages. It'll be right beside the save subimages icon. And go ahead and click that. Now then, navigate to your tutorial assets folder that you just downloaded and double click sprites. And we're going to be doing top down first, so double click top down and then Dragon de Platino, and then just single click engineer.png and then click open. You can also double click it to open it, but I find it easier for this particular program to do it this way. Then this little window will pop up. Now this is going to be a little bit confusing to basically newer people, but basically this is what it does. This is number of images in your animation, basically. We're going to change this to 4. Now this is automatically going to change this number to 4 as well. This is images per row, but we don't want this to be 4. We want this particular number to be 1, so you can change it to 1 now. Now you'll notice that the boxes on the sides here went from this, with this configuration, to that configuration. That's normal, but basically there are 2 more boxes. They're just off of the image. You can't see them. There's one right here and one right here. But we just want the images. We don't want these giant boxes. So this is what this does. This changes the box width. We'll change it to 16. And then the box height, again, 16. Now you can clearly see all 4 images that we're about to add, and they're in the right spots. So go ahead and click import. And now click the zoom in key, and there is our first sprite. Now you'll notice if you click these down here, these are all of the sub-images. Now what a sub-image is basically just a frame of animation. But it could be literally anything. But this is idle in all 4 directions. We're actually going to change up our sub-images a bit. Go ahead and click the first one here. Should be this one facing this way. And then hit shift. And then move that guy to the edge over here. And then we want to move this one, the opposite facing, to the left one. So basically the first one should be facing left, second one should be facing up, third one should be facing right, and fourth one should be facing toward the camera. And that is our animation. If we just click that, it'll spin, but we're going to set it up to where it doesn't spin in a minute. So whenever you have gotten your animation done, or imported rather, next we got to do the bounding box. So the bounding box is basically this tiny outline. You probably can't even see it on your screen, but you'll be able to see it within the editor itself. So it's basically the box that the engine uses to detect collision. So if that doesn't make sense now, trust me, just wait, it will in a bit. We want to change the bounding box in order to suit our needs, or what we want. So click manual, and in the left and the top sections we are going to do 5 for both of them, just like that. And then for right we are going to do, let's see here, 11 maybe? No, 10. Yes, 10. And you know what, actually change top to 8. That should be good. And then we can leave bottom at 15. So this changes the bounding box to this area here, which is important for later, but for now it probably won't even make any sense. So anyways, click the check mark up at the top. Okay, so now that we have our idle animation done, let's import 3 more. I'm not going to do all 3 of them on camera, but the next 3 are done the exact same way. So basically what we do is we go back to add sprite sheet subimages, and then we go back to our engineer and change this to 16 by 16. And then we're going to need 3 frames of animation. This time we're not going to change this number because we want it to be horizontal. But if we go down to horizontal cell offset, we can select 1. And that will shift all 3 from these first 3 to the last 3 here. And that's only because we do not want the idle animation here. So if we hit import, you'll see that we have 3 frames of animation, but we want 4 because we want this one to be at the end. So if we copy and paste this, then click shift, hit the arrow on this side, then as you can see now, it has 4 frames. Now if we zoom in and hit the play button, the aforementioned play button, you'll notice that the frames are a little bit fast. We don't want this. So go ahead and select the first one, hit copy, and then paste it twice. Select the second frame, copy, paste twice. The third frame, copy, paste twice. And then the fourth frame, copy and paste twice. Now let's look at this. It's still a little fast, so let's go through this. Let's go through these and copy and paste these one more time. So copy, paste, and as soon as it changes, copy, paste, and then copy and paste. Let's look at this now. Okay, and that should be good. So if we go up here, we can rename this to SPR man walk down. And then we change our bounding box to the same as it was over here. So if you just copy these numbers, you will get the exact same result. So it's 5, 8, 10, and 15. 15 is the same. So we'll do 5, 8, 10, and 15. Okay, now that is the first walking animation done. And I'm going to show you basically where the other ones are. So if we damn. Excuse me. If we go ahead and open this, change these to 16 by 16, change the cell offset to 1, and then this is 3. So the next frames are right here, and right here. So once you go ahead and import these, and also in order to get down there, you just add one to the vertical cell offset. So there's one there. So once you import these, then this will become 2 to import those, and then it'll become 3 to import those. So once you get all that done, then come back and I will show you the next step. Also, don't forget to add 3 to each of the animations to make it 4 frames per frame. So it's basically 4 images per frame, basically. And set the bounding box. Please don't forget to do that. And also name them accordingly. That's important as well. Okay, now once you're done importing all of the animations for walking, let's go ahead and go up to Sprites, right-click, and then click Create Group. Name it Hero or Man or whatever the hell you want. And then select the top one, hold down the Shift key, and then select Man Walk Up. Then go ahead and drag all of these to inside the hero folder. That's the right word. Okay, so now that we have our hero sprites, it's time to create a hero object. So go ahead and create resource within objects, and then hit hero and then idle. Now this is going to be, I mislabeled that. Hold on. Go over here to where it says sprite idle left, and then take out the left, because this is all 4 idle animations. We don't need to label it that way. So just label it sprite man idle. Anyways, so rename your object to object hero, and then in the create event, go over here to the left or the right hand side, click control, and then over here the paper, but the paper without the green arrow. Drag it over and you'll get this little text box here. This is your code editor. Now, code in EDL is super easy to learn. It is so simple that I'm confident anyone can pick it up. You know, it's the easiest coding language I think I have ever tried to learn ever. So I'm going to teach you a little bit of how to use it and whatnot. So anyways, all we want in here is image index equals 0. Actually, that's not true. Image index equals 3. And then next line, image speed equals 0. Okay, so that is basically all we're going to do so far. And what that's going to do is it's going to set the animation frame to facing downward, and it's going to stop it from spinning. Image index applies, or basically allows you to change the sub image of whichever sprite you're using. And then that's what 3 is. 3 should be facing towards you, or facing down in this case. And of course, like I said, image speed just changes the animation speed. Okay, so now that we've established all of that, we need to change the depth to -1, and that will be important later on, but let's change it now so we don't have to worry about it. So depth -1, and then normal step. This should automatically be in there, by the way. Normal step, then drag a piece of code. And then in this one, this is where we're going to do our movement, basically. So this is just going to be basic movement, and it's going to go a little bit like this. If keyboard check, open parentheses, VK underscore left, okay, and then 2 ampersands, which I will henceforth be calling just that, which I will henceforth be just saying and for that, by the way. So if keyboard check VK left and place free x -2, comma y, enter, tab to indent, open up a curly brace, and then enter twice and close the curly brace. This is where your actions are going to go. So this right here, this is called an if case. The if case is used to check conditions, in this case 2 conditions, whether or not you're holding the left key, and if there's no collision in that area. Anyways, it checks those 2 conditions, and then if those 2 conditions turn out to be true or correct, it will do the following actions. So the first thing that we're going to do is x -= 2. And that basically just moves the object in the direction of -x 2 pixels per step. So that is going to be happening so long as you're holding down the left key. Now we need 2 more things here. We need a global.facing equals true. No, my bad. Global.facing equals 0. Then we also need a global.move equals true. This one is true. So these 2 will come in a little bit later, but basically facing just detects which direction you're going, and moving just detects whether you are moving or not. So go ahead and hit enter after the closing curly brace, and then we're going to also put an else case on this. So type else space, open and close curly braces, and what's going in here is the following: global.move equals false, semicolon, global.facing equals 0. So what does this do? So basically, where an if case checks to see if these 2 are true, an else case that is connected to an if case basically happens while these 2 are not true. So in a way it's kind of inverting it, but in a way it's kind of not as well. So basically what this is going to do is it's going to check whether or not the left key is being pressed, and whether or not there's a collision in this area. And if there isn't, if both of those return true, then it will move the object, it'll set these 2. Otherwise, or else, it will set move to false, and it'll still set global facing. In fact, we might take this out a little bit later, just the global facing. But that is the movement in the left direction. Now we just need to copy this, quite literally, to a couple more. So let's do right next. So where left is VK left, right is just VK right, and where left checks x minus 2, the right direction checks x plus 2. Now I have also, I need to open something real quick, and I'll do that off camera. Okay, so this is basically a basic representation of the coordinate plane in LateralGM. GameMaker also uses the same coordinate plane. So imagine this area right here where the two planes cross as being the object. Alright, the left direction is always going to be negative x. That's the negative x direction. The right direction is positive x. Up is always going to be negative y, and down is going to be positive y. So the way I remember this easily is going from 9 o'clock, going clockwise, it goes negative, negative, positive, positive, and it also alternates from x to y, x, y, x, y. So it's negative x, negative x, negative y, positive x, positive y. So that's basically the way the coordinate system works. Now, moving back onto LateralGM, hopefully now this will make a little bit more sense. So where we typed vk left up here, this is going to be vk right. So every time it says x minus 2, then we need to change it to x plus 2, including this one. And we're also going to change the facing to 2. Yes, 2. There's a reason that we're not using 1 here, because 1 is actually going to go in the up direction. And that is going to be corresponding to the sub-images here. So this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. So this is going to correspond with the sub-images. So we did left first, then we did right. Let's do up and down next. That's 2 and that's 1 and 3 respectively. So let me go ahead and do this. Oh, and before I forget, change this also in the else case. Alright, so vk up. Now, if you remember the coordinate plane, up is negative y, so we need to do y minus 2. And in this case, the only thing we have to change down here is from x to y. So we'll do that, and then change this facing to 1, and facing to 1. Then we can copy all of this, and paste another down here, and we can change this to down. And just like we did before, this is going to change to positive 2 and plus 2. Facing is going to change to 3 and 3. And that is our basic movement hopefully completed. Now there could be bugs in this movement system the way it is right now, but I promise you that I will show you how to work those out. So before we can test it, we need a room. So go ahead and create a room resource. And this is basically just going to be a basic representation of the room. The room we're going to be building is going to be smaller than this actually, so let's go ahead and do that. Change the width to 320 and the height to 240. You'll find that in the settings tab. You can also set a caption for the room, although I don't really know how that's useful, and change the room name from here. You can also set it to persistent, which we will be looking at a little bit later, and we can set the creation code. Okay, so now that we have that, go to Objects, make sure your object hero is selected, and just place it anywhere within the room. Then click Save, and if you haven't named it already, then go ahead and name it, and then click Run. And if this is your first time compiling a game with this program, it's going to take a lot longer than that. So as you can see, the creation code made the hero face this way. Now hopefully the movement will work. Yes, it does. Perfect. So now as you can see, the movement works, but the animations are not there. That's because we haven't set that up yet, but we'll get to that probably in the next episode. So that is basic movement. We are going to be doing the animations in the next episode, and probably the collisions. So I think that's about it for this one. Thank you all very much for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.